Something that I think distinguishes not only attorneys, but particularly a lot of women attorneys that everyone across, is that there are times where your intuition is the loudest voice in the room. If you're doing a bunch of administrative things that are not making you money, it's time to hire.
Yeah.
I thought I pretty much sucked at being a mom. I thought I was gonna be really good at this, but I'm like really good at being a business owner, but I'm like, they can't even talk to me. They can't tell me like what hurts. Like, do you want your diaper changed? Like, just tell me, but write me a letter, right? And now that the firm has scaled, it's definitely grown. I am observing myself, taking some steps back from it.
Today, I am having a wonderful conversation with Brittany Quintana. She is not only a law firm owner, but also an amazing attorney, mom, wife, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this conversation. Brittany, I'm so glad that you're able to join me today. I wanted to have you on because of so many reasons. I feel like you would be helpful to our audience in guiding us by showcasing your personality, because I think it's unique.
Unique is a nice word.
I think it's unique. It always instills confidence in me when we have conversations. And I hope that the audience will take that away as well. So if you could tell us a little bit about you and then how you transitioned into owning a law firm and practicing law by yourself, going out on your own.
Okay, so a little bit about me, to break that into a few pieces. I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I'm an attorney, I focus on litigation. So whereas there are some attorneys, as you know, that do the transactional stuff, that do documents, that do closings, you're a master. Although I know that you have lots of skills. But for instance, your real estate practice is a really good example. I'm the one that gets hired when things go awry, for lack of a better term. Yes. I was counseled not to have any expletives in this podcast. And I do the fighting after the fact. So it requires a lot of communication. It requires a lot of being out there. It requires doing a lot of reading, energies, and, in a lot of ways operating with your intuition. So I started as an attorney for Department of Children and Families. And while I was there, I was handling termination of parental rights cases, heavy cases, all litigated cases. I got a lot of experience there trying cases. And then I went into the world of working for insurance carriers. And I worked for all different kinds. I did property damage cases. So imagine plumbing, water leaks, hurricane issues. I did trucking accidents on the defense side. And then I decided I'm tired of taking orders from big law firms, and I don't like billable hours. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this for myself and do it for my family, because as I started, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, and I'm proud of being able to provide for that family. And so I opened up my own law firm in 2018, focused at that time specifically on insurance litigation on the plaintiff side. What does that mean? The property owners, the business owners, the consumers, when they had disputes against insurance companies, I figured out how to get them paid for damages. And I still do that in a lot of ways. The practice is morphed. I'm doing property damage more generally, so there may be negligence cases, but I do a lot of litigation stuff. I do a lot of the fighting, and in addition to that, I do a lot of the problem solving to resolve a lot of those disputes.
Did you always know that you wanted to own your own law firm?
No. I don't know sometimes what I want for breakfast. But as I said, something that I think distinguishes not only attorneys, but particularly a lot of women attorneys that everyone across, is that there are times where your intuition is the loudest voice in the room. And after I had my son, my intuition was telling me, you're doing this. Whereas as a little girl, I kind of always knew I wanted to be an attorney. I guess I just decided it, did it, and then ran out of goals. I was just sitting there rudderless and figuring out what I was doing with my life.
Right.
We've been there, all of us, in different ways. That intuition, that goal came back into play when I had my son, and I realized I want to set this up on my own. And of course, that wasn't done in a vacuum. I'm the daughter of a business owner. I saw entrepreneurship young. I didn't reinvent the wheel, but I decided I was going to do that as a litigator and as an insurance litigator.
I want to touch on something that you said, because you said, I listen to my intuition. And so often, especially starting out, right? And I could probably relate this to any industry. It doesn't have to be the legal world. We almost have this sense of like, let's quiet that down to just sort of learn the ropes and get experience. At what point, or maybe you just always listen to your intuition, at what point did you decide, no, I'm not going to quiet that voice? And for those that have issues with that, what advice would you give them to like, hey, this is something that you do need to listen to?
It's a great question. So the answer to the second question you asked, it was the second question was, did I always listen to it? The answer is yes. In a job like this, and you, I know, can relate to this, where it is a very cerebral, strategy focused type of work, where you're living up here, it's very easy to consider your intuition something separate from that. Your gut instinct, right? We always point to like our chest, our gut.
Right.
But in reality, it's another tool up here, right? It's not just a strategy. For instance, in litigation, I know the rules of litigation really well, because if I know the rules really well and I know my facts really well, I can walk in really confident. But there's another intellectualized tool. It's just harder to see on paper. It's not black and white like a rule. But it's equivalent to it. Sometimes it's stronger than it.
And it's unique to you.
It's unique to you. It's unique to everyone individually. And it's a muscle like any other. You can practice learning the rules really well the same way you can practice utilizing your intuition. And what I tell people when they're trying to figure out how to harness it is, let's focus on a time where you did follow your intuition and something happened. The money followed, the result followed, the problem was solved. Well, now you have evidence-based logic to support why your intuition is one of the tools in your arsenal.
Right.
And I use it for everything. I use it for client selection, because sometimes you have a really lucrative sounding client that costs you a lot more in time and energy. I know you've been there.
Yes.
And I use it with strategy, figuring out who the players are at the table, what drives them, what can get my client across the goal line to achieve the result that they want.
Great. I think that's so important, because it's not always about being the loudest in the room. And I encounter this issue very often, and I'm sure you do as well, right? Especially, let's be honest, operating, I mean, there are a lot more women in the profession now, but the reality is we find ourselves in rooms where we might be the only woman. And sometimes people think, oh, that's a negative. Well, sometimes I disagree. I think it's a positive, because I call it intuition or not, but I know that sometimes I need to be quiet, read the room, analyze in my head, okay, like when it's appropriate for me to speak. And when I say appropriate, it's not like, oh, I should speak. No, it's like, when is it going to be effective? Because it's not always about being the loudest in the room, because sometimes those individuals are very polarizing and they don't get to the resolution that they want, right? So I think but I, unlike you, I think had a different experience. At least in the practice of law, I tried to do like the cookie cutter version and like follow all the rules and do what I was supposed to do. And I didn't gain that confidence of listening to my intuition until I progressed in the practice of law. So I guess, what would you tell the person that's having an experience like me? Like, how do you get outside of, being always in here in a negative way and use that to your advantage?
So 2 things. Trust your process, whatever it is, right? Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, Brittany, you're sitting there and you're talking and but I had my own journey to get to where I was getting. We were talking about it before we went on. Some people have experiences very young that start harnessing and fine-tuning those abilities. Some people have them a little bit later in their career. Some people have them when they change into different iterations of their career, right? So, but if you go into every experience knowing yourself and knowing the things that motivate you and the things that help you to learn and grow, and saying, how did this experience, how was it either a win or how was it a learn? Like, what did I get from this really crappy boss that I had? And I had a lot of them. What did I get from this awful boss? Well, he was really, really good at being aggressive. And when I need that, I learned a whole skill set that I can use now when necessary, right? What did I use from a boss that I thought was going to teach me a bunch of things, but then I ended up kind of taking ownership? Well, that maybe just because there's a hierarchy or expectation in the room doesn't mean I don't know the most in the room or I can't be the most effective in the room. So for those whose intuition is saying now's the time to move, I say follow that. And for those who feel like something's shifting in me, something's changing, it's okay to do that work and not be operating at 100 miles an hour all the time. Sometimes you need to do some of that evolution so that you do exactly what you did. You gain the confidence to say, I'm catapulting forward.
I want to touch on something that I think I gained from our interactions, which is like when to hire, which is like such a difficult concept and thing to do when you're just like going, I don't know, you're going through the motions of setting up a law firm or whatever business that may be. Because you were very confident, like you need to hire someone and train them, get stuff off of your plate. How did you develop into, I'm going to assume that a lot of the experiences that you had with your bosses that you say were not the most positive, shaped you in like the kind of leader that you want to be. So I guess it's a twofold question, right? Like, how do you know when it's time to hire? And how do you lead those individuals once you do hire them?
So how do you know when to hire? Couple of things. If you're doing a bunch of administrative things that are not making you money, it's time to hire. Right? Because your team is the backbone. You're the face in a lot of ways. You're the leadership. There's days that you can show up to lead, which we'll get to the second part of your question, at 100%. Same as a marriage. Some days you're showing up at 40. But your team is there to ensure that you have the structure you need to be able to continue to grow. So when to hire administrative, when you're doing a bunch of administrative things. That doesn't necessarily mean on day one. It may mean when you have planned for and you have the cash flow to be able to bring on some help, perhaps temporarily. You'd be surprised how many people in your network want to help you. Some don't do it charging you initially. Some people have an agreement where they work in because they believe in you and they want to work for you and they want to help you build. So you definitely have to go out there and always be open to potential growth. I had significant changes in the law and in my line of business. And the only reason I was confident is because I spent so much time doing things for myself, being the administrator, being the financial, being the manager, even the lawyers. And everyone experiences it in one way or another. And I still delayed in bringing in more legal help. So as the business grew, I said, well, maybe I don't need to be doing as many hearings and depositions. I can find a good, competent woman, attorney, to do a really good job doing that. And she does, and she crushes it. And I trust her. And then a billing clerk came in to alleviate some of my concerns. So now you have a new problem. Now the problem that you solved by not wearing all the hats is now you have worker bees and you're supposed to be a queen bee and administering the worker bees. Well, the way to do that is with systems. Systems and processes that from the inception, these people who want to help you know what, one, their expectations are, and two, are told when they're meeting those expectations, or if there's additional stuff that they need to be able to work on or support maybe that you need to give, guidance or leadership you need to give so that they can excel at their roles. So it requires building in, and it's frustrating once you've alleviated all this time, leadership time. That means weekly meetings or team meetings or mentorship, which doesn't necessarily need to be you. It might be someone else on your team who's really good. But that requires knowing what the scope of responsibilities is for each role and knowing the strengths and weaknesses of that person.
And then I guess the follow-up to that is, you've done all those things, right? When do you know that person is not the right fit? Because I've been in situations where that's a difficult problem to overcome. And I don't want to say difficult. It's not difficult, right? But I know I'm an attorney. I don't mind confrontation when it's for my clients, but sometimes like I don't like to hurt an individual. Obviously, you come to care for certain people that have been around you and have helped you build. I guess, when do you know it's not a right fit anymore?
I'm a masterclass in what not to do in terms of hiring and firing. So it's actually a really good example because it's an example of what not to do. I have the same issue. I want to go to war and take on all the opposition.
Right.
I feel responsible for my team.
Right.
We hire and we sit there and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be tied to the salary for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. They have families. What if I fail them? What if I don't generate? Well, it's a two-way deal. It's a two-way agreement. It's like any other relationship. And so defining responsibilities and having those metrics clear, and then putting on your big girl pants,
Right.
and following through on those metrics and saying, here's where we're at and here's where we're not,
Right.
is the best way to tell. But going back to our questions, a few questions before, you know what's really going to tell you? Your intuition.
Your tuition, yeah.
You know when that person's not the right fit. I have a perfect example. I have a bomb receptionist. Like, he's amazing. He doesn't fit the typical receptionist he's not a list person. He's not but he gets the messages to me. He does a good job communicating with clients. And then when I sat down and asked him what he really liked, he was like, I really like legal writing. And I was like, I'm sorry, you like what?
Great.
The thing I don't want to do? And he's like, yeah, I love drafting complaints. I've never done them before, but I'm a really good writer. And I was like, do you want to try drafting a complaint?
Mm-hmm.
That complaint blew my complaints out of the water. But had I not sat down and actually talked to him about the things that he enjoys and the fact that he wanted to contribute to the team, I wouldn't have known that. Cut to the receptionist I had before him, who was a lovely person. But then when several things happened that weren't working, I couldn't figure out what the proper protocol was to terminate, to fire. So as a mother, I defaulted to, when do you think your last day should be?
Right.
Which is quite possibly the worst way to cut a relationship with someone who may not be a bad person, but may not be the right fit for your firm at that time.
Right.
And then I took from that experience and I learned from that experience. And I tell everyone so that I wear that badge of accountability about that experience so that that doesn't happen to me again. And then I learn from it, and I learn from it in the right way. I have not, the same as you, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
I know what's worked. I know what hasn't worked. You know, something changes in the firm that maybe didn't work, that maybe you want to bring back, that might work at that given time, because the organization is a living, breathing organism. It's like a third kid for me.
It's a little bit fluid, and you have to be, because, I mean, now with AI and all the interventions, let's just call them that are impacting the legal field, and I'm sure other industries are feeling it in their own way as well. We have to be able to adapt, take what works, you know, let go of what doesn't, and keep learning from the experiences, like you said. So now I want to shift into a different topic, which is, you're an entrepreneur, you're an attorney.
That's what I'm told.
That's what your diploma,
Your diploma says.
your bar admission.
Yeah, I identify most as more as a former than the latter, but yes, I guess I'm an attorney. Yeah.
You're a wife and you're a mom. And I'm sure, because I experience it and I know you personally, you get pulled in so many directions. How do you view those roles, how they work together, and what tools do you use to make sure, maybe I shouldn't use that terminology, like make sure, we can't make sure of anything, right? But that we try to be balanced to some extent in those other roles that you're serving.
So I let go of balance as a concept. I am so not balanced in every sense of the word. Because why would you want to subject yourself to conflict all the time unless you're not balanced? Right? So I don't mind the little way. So now I'm like rethinking.
Right.
I balanced. I'm happy for your
right.
Listen, I love sitting with you because I feel a sense of balance. You feel maybe a sense of propulsion forward, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's order in the world. And that's the beauty, by the way, of those relationships. which is part of the answer to the question, which is surrounding yourself with people who, one, want to see you win, and two, are going to offer other perspectives that you can take from.
Right.
And there might be things that serve you, and there may be things that don't serve you at any time. I am self-aware enough to know that I like a little bit of chaos. I don't mind it. I don't mind a little bit of discomfort. And I lived in that for a while. And I think when the firm was getting started, I was a lot more all in, if I'm being honest, on the firm and making sure it succeeds, to make sure I can give my family security, because I didn't want to fail at this, right? It was an ego thing. I didn't want to fail at this. I can do this. This idiot down the street can do it, so I can do it, right? So,
Which I like want to preface with that. You have to have that mentality. There has to be some level of grit that's going to push you through, whether it be a law firm or whatever type of business. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to have that mentality. If not, I can assure you, you won't make it.
You won't. And that's okay.
Right.
Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely not.
You have to be slightly unhinged.
Correct.
Want to do this and bet on yourself.
Right.
And, at that time, when my kids were even younger, they're 8 and 4 now, I thought I pretty much sucked at being a mom. I was like, I thought I was going to be really good at this, but I'm like really good at being a business owner, but I'm like, they can't even talk to me. They can't tell me like what hurts.
Right.
Like, do you want your diaper changed? Like, just tell me, but write me a letter, right? And my husband was the best at that, right? He was like a savant of newborns. And he was great, and he was part of my team. And he wasn't necessarily part of my firm, but I really considered him part of our team and my team. And now that the firm has scaled, it's definitely grown, I am observing myself taking some steps back from it, because I'm trusting that it's okay and that I put the systems in place. And frankly, right now in my life, I'm really enjoying the baseball games. I'm really enjoying the parent-teacher conferences.
Right.
I'm not enjoying the parent get-togethers. I still don't do those. The parents at my kids' school are very nice, but there's only so many hours in a day.
Correct.
And sometimes I want to be watching Housewives and not doing that.
You also speak to people for a living. I think people don't realize that when you're front facing all the time with clients, with other parties, you're at some point you just I just want to be quiet, and I think there's an element of that.
Yeah. And I think in this era, I am doing a lot of work through therapy, through business coaching, through financial advisors whom I've surrounded myself with. I've decided that this era, at soon to be 39, is going to be the time where I really look introspectively on how I can continue to serve, how I can continue to lead, and how I can amplify. There's a driver in me of how I can serve more consumers throughout our state, and how I can push back on establishments, which I really enjoy doing, on a broader scale. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about what that's going to look like as my firm continues to serve clients, but as I continue to grow as an individual. And I'm doing that while getting to enjoy the baseball games and the cheer competitions and those things. And I'm okay with that.
How did you get comfortable with delegating? Because, I think as women that tend to be perfectionists, especially in our careers, because I don't know if it's some desire to prove yourself or what the actual cause is, but we suffer from it, let's be honest. How do you get comfortable with delegating, knowing that it's probably or almost certainly not going to be to the same standard that you would hold yourself? How do you move past that? Because I think that is a huge struggle in scaling your business and even at home, right? Yes, because I could tell you, I don't have a cleaning lady right now, but I also am like,
You should have one.
I know. But I have come to realize that it gives me some peace.
That's
so I make time for it because I like the ritual of it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay for other things that free up my time to do, the things at home, because I find pleasure in it. Let's be honest.
Great. It fills your cup. That's good.
So, but that's a struggle for me. Knowing, crap, they're not doing it like how I would do it. And I see that in all aspects of my life, especially in my business. So how do you get comfortable with that to be able to scale, to be able to serve more people in the state, in the country, whatever that may be?
We're all bad at that. What I have specifically done in designing my team is appoint people to counteract my worst tendencies. So that's a really good example of it. I have someone specifically dedicated to every time I say I want to add something to the calendar or I want to do it myself, her whole job is to be like, no, you can't.
Right.
No, you won't. You might be able to, but you won't. Let's put this on a day here so that I can build in time. The other thing that I've been doing as well to manage the delegation is planning out days on what are they going to be? Are they going to be meeting days? Are they going to be planning days? Are they going to be finance days? So that there's some uniformity for me.
Right. It gives you some structure to build.
Right. But what happens with the rest of those days? The rest of the team needs to either know or be assigned what it is that they're doing.
Right.
And a lot of times I'm still the bottleneck. The stuff comes back to me to review. And after a day, 2 days, 3 days, my team knows, hey, can we send this to so-and-so to review?
Right.
And you know what happens after day 3? Send it to so-and-so to review. She's really good.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. You know, I tell everyone, other than missing a deadline for an appeal, right? Everything can be fixed. So why not show herself that same grace?
Yeah. It's funny. My prior boss also felt, he's like, as long as you're not in federal court.
Which now everything feels like federal court with rules.
With all the rules. I feel like a lot of those things are fixable. In the transactional space, I think there's less room because you're dealing with, you know, not that you guys don't have escrow accounts, but escrow accounts where money is coming in large quantities that you're responsible for, wire fraud, and all the other issues. So in that, regardless, we do have to get comfortable with being able to delegate some things because there's only 24 hours in a day. And if there's no time for it, it needs to get done, whether it be you or somebody else.
In your space, you can have a list, and I know you do, but you know, someone looking to move into your space, of those things that are non-negotiable, you need to review for liability. And then you'll be surprised all the things that you actually do in a day that you probably don't need to do.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's like, you know what? I'm going to be more comfortable delegating this part.
Right.
I'm going to be more comfortable delegating the meeting with the copy machine that's people that are going to come and do because I'm like, I can just talk to them, it'll be faster.
Right.
No, I don't need to do that.
Right.
Somebody very capable and probably more capable than me can come up with a way to do it versus, hey, we have to close on this day. I need to make sure everything is taken care of as sort of the last line of defense with enough time to correct any errors. That could be you.
Right.
And if the thing brings you pleasure and makes you happy, your cleaning being a perfectly good example, you don't want to give that away.
Right.
You can keep that. Right?
Yeah. I've learned that I've had to like delegate other things that I feel comfortable doing and that don't bring me joy. Other people do it better than I do so that I can have space for the things that really matter to me. And again, that came with time and building up my confidence in the world of running a business and also motherhood and being a wife.
Multiple businesses that you run. And I think that is the best advice for people, for your listeners and your viewers is exactly what you just said. It's really being aware of those things and being okay with not being the one to do everything and being like, hey, you know what? I don't need to feel guilty.
Right.
Part of us, like, we like to punish ourselves, right? Like, part of it is like, why do I get lucky enough? Why am I lucky enough to get to do things that I really want to do?
Right.
Well, you're bringing in team members who really are good at, they're a genius at the thing you don't want to do. They're doing what they want to do too. You're bringing in clients, you're bringing in this team, you're setting up this awesome place for them to work. They want you to succeed because you're bringing them such good things. So yes, you get to do the things that you really want to do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the perk of this.
Well, I think that's like the perfect way to end the conversation. I think it's a muscle you got to exercise and you got to build that confidence, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I want you to know that you give me that confidence every time we see each other.
Same.
And I'm glad I could bring some calm and peace.
You do. It's so much stability and so much, you know what you do? You do such a good job bringing clarity. And that's why your clients are so lucky to have you. You feel like you're going to weather the ship.
Yeah.
And it's the best thing in an advocate. It's the best quality in an advocate.
Thank you. I'll take the compliment.
It's the truth.
Thank you for tuning into this conversation. I really enjoyed having it and spending time with Brittany. If you don't already, follow her on Quintana Law PA and follow us for more content like this.